Okay, without further ado, I'm going to introduce the one and only, the most delightful Kelly McLaughlin. I know this is the moment we've
Oh my
been
gosh, we've
for.
known each other too long, Jenna, I think.
I really think we need to get Candace and like, wait, where are you again, Kelly? We have to do a reunion.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, no, I know. It's so funny. We've all journeyed in many different directions. I've like three organizations past when you met me.
Always reinventing. That's
There
something
you
that
go. There you go.
something that
Yeah.
I like about you. All right. So we're going to learn from Kelly, who is the CEO of From Scratch Fundraising. We're going to learn how to succeed in stewardship without really trying, because I mean, who's trying anymore these days, honestly? It's fine. Just like chat can handle this. Chat.
There we go.
But yeah, Kelly is just a very dynamic and engaging speaker, and I just love having her here every time, sharing her tips and best practices, because she has a lot of experience working directly with nonprofits over the years. And I forget how many years again have you been in the nonprofit
I'm
consulting?
closing in on, well, I've been consulting for the last 5, but I've been in individual giving for the last 20, I'm embarrassed to say. So, yeah.
Sorry, I called you out. I called you out. It's my fault.
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine. I'm getting old. It's fine.
But you don't, I wouldn't know. That's why I had no idea. I'm like,
There you go. Yeah, no, deceptive.
all right. Well, everyone
Awesome.
give Kelly some love in the chat, and I'm gonna let you take it away. All right, Kelly?
Yay, sounds good. All right. Hey, everybody. Let me just get my slideshow up. So, I am here to talk about how to succeed in stewardship without really trying. And the reason I like talking about this is because um, I think it's a real struggle. Stewardship doesn't feel like the thing that will, that you can show your board you've raised more money. You can take a fundraising event and say how much you fundraised, but stewardship is a hard thing to focus on because we feel like we're not getting things done when we are stewarding because it just, yeah, there's no dollar value you can put on this, but actually there is. And I want to teach you first, I want to talk about how we assign that dollar value, how we can kind of understand the value of stewardship. But also then I want to teach you ways to do it in a way that is very streamlined in the interest of making sure I'm on topic for this conference. Um, how we streamline that activity so that we are spending less time on it, but it has more of an impact on our donors. So that is what we are doing today. And just before I get started, Jenna gave me a great intro personally, but From Scratch Fundraising is my consulting practice. I like to say at From Scratch Fundraising, we help nonprofits raise more dough without burning anything. So raise more, burn out less. And we do this by creating individual giving strategies and, more importantly, systems that work more efficiently and sustainably so that we can raise more, have greater impact, happier donors, all of that. And most importantly, to me, less stressed staff. So that is what we do here at From Scratch. And so I want to give you a little preview of how we work on stewardship with our clients so that you can understand how you can streamline your stewardship program. All right. So we kind of know, I think most of us know, you can tell me in the chat if this is news to you, it's probably not. We know that keeping the donors we have is really important. We also know that donor retention industry wide is at around 40%. It has hovered at that 40% mark for the 2 decades I have been a fundraiser, right? I have never seen it change. Sometimes it goes, I think the highest it ever has been is around 43, 41. It hovers in the lower 40%, right? So, how do we square that, right? How do we square such low donor retention with the fact that donor retention is one of the most paramount things that we need to run sustainable fundraising programs, right? And that the answer to that is stewardship. And what I hear from so many nonprofit leaders and fundraising leaders is they just don't have time to steward their donors the way they want to because they're so busy fundraising, right? But here's the thing, if stewardship is key to, it is key to growing your fundraising program, right? Keeping the donors you have is the most important work. And when we are working on more fundraising campaigns, all of that, the current trend talking about donor fatigue, I don't know that there's donor fatigue. I think people donate, they aren't stewarded well, which means they don't understand the impact they made on your organization. And then they're getting asked and asked and asked and asked and asked. And so they stop giving. And we call it donor fatigue, but I think we can point to stewardship and poor stewardship as part of the problem, right? I had a client tell me they were too busy to do their stewardship work recently. They were busy planning like their third fundraising event of the year, and I told her, cancel the event, cancel the event. Just call the donors you have and have a conversation with them, right? That is a better use of your time than running another fundraising event because your donors are getting tired. We can see it in your data. They're giving less. And another fundraising event is not going to do what you want it to do in the absence of stewardship, right? So anyway, and that's because stewardship does the important work of donor retention, right? And donor retention, the reason it's so key to a sustainable fundraising program is it's more efficient. It's twice as much work to recruit a new donor than to keep one that you have. Somebody who has already donated to you has already opted in. They've already said, yes, I love what you're doing. I want to see more of it. I am giving to whatever campaign called me in. And so it is more efficient to keep the people who have already said yes than to go find. What we're doing is, by not focusing on stewardship, is we're saying, oh, you people who have already opted in and been excited about our cause, you don't matter. We're going to go find people who don't care about us to care about us, right? That doesn't work. It's not efficient, right? Because we need to be deeply engaging the people who have already said yes to us. Also, donor retention is more effective because the more you keep the donors you have, the faster you can grow when you bring in new donors. And I've got a chart that proves this, the numbers, right? So here's an actual real life scenario based on a client that I worked with. They were bringing in roughly $100,000 per year of new donors. That's awesome, right? $100,000 in new donations every single year. But they had a 20% donor retention rate. Just 20. It was half the industry average. And I've seen worse. I think the worst one I've seen is about 12%. But that's what they were making. So when we're looking at their growth trajectory, they came to me saying, Kelly, we're raising $100,000 from new donors every year. Why isn't our total raised moving at all? And here's why. Because at a 20% retention rate, in year one, they raised that 100,000 from new donors. In year two, they hustled just as hard, raised $100,000 from new donors, but they only retained 20,000 of that initial 100,000. So that by year three, they've only grown by $24,000, all the while raising $100,000 from new donors. You can tell me in the chat, does that sound exhausting? When you look at it that way, you can see why all fundraisers are exhausted. Yes? We can see this. It's not much better when we look at industry average. The industry benchmark, as it has been most of my career, is 40%, right? Year one, we raise $100,000. Let's say we got that client to that $100,000. Year two, we get up to 140. And by year three, we've only grown by 50%. That's not great. Still not great. Again, because we're hustling hard on that $100,000. Now, you can't get 100% donor retention. I've tried. I tried really, really hard. I can't do it. The best I've ever gotten at any organization, I think I got it to 83% for an organization where I was on staff for 5 years, right? But let's say 75%. This is where I try to get most of my clients to, is this 60 to 75%. In year one, we raise that 100,000 from new donors. If we can retain 75% of those donors, in year two, we've already nearly doubled, right? By year three, we've more than doubled, right? So now do you believe me that donor retention is the key to your growth? You can tell me in the chat. Have I convinced you? Or what are the questions remaining in your brain before we move on? Yeah, retention is key. I started working for an organization as their individual giving director. I was there for 5 years. When I came in, they were raising $200,000 to $300,000 roughly. I changed nothing about how they fundraised. I didn't change the campaigns. I didn't change their main gala. I changed nothing. The only thing I changed was the stewardship program. By the time I left that organization 5 years later, we were raising $1.2 million a year without changing how we were fundraising, without adding campaigns. All we did was change our stewardship, right? So believe me, stewardship can be the differentiator. You don't need to add a ton of campaigns. Yeah. Joanne asks, in my calculations, do you count one-off gifts such as memorial gifts or dues? That's more complicated. I'll give you information where you can connect with me one-on-one with that. Usually if a memorial gift, no, especially if it's like a legacy or bequest, right? Or sometimes memorial gifts are hard to renew. Dues, if you're charging dues, I don't count that as fundraising, period. Dues, memberships, anything like that. Earned revenue is not fundraising. It is revenue, but it's not fundraising in terms of how I'm talking about it right now. Okay? So that's where we'll start. Understanding that donor retention is really critical. So when clients start with me, I'll usually ask about their stewardship process, right? And usually it's something like we send a thank you note, we have an annual donor thank you party, maybe we send them an annual report. It's pretty simple, right? But we need something more robust than that, right? I feel like there's kind of this attitude that donors are ATMs. We go to them when we need money, punch in a certain code and get money, right? And we don't go back until we need more, right? But donors, that's not why donors give. They didn't give because your fundraising campaign was just so compelling. They give because they care about your organization. They're bought into the change you're making, right? And so when we stop seeing it as trying to convince people to give to us, but rather when we see our campaigns as an ask point in a bigger relationship with people who believe in our mission and want to see the change we're making in the world, stewardship takes on a lot more urgency and importance, right? Because what we're doing is trying to help our donors see, one, the benefit of giving, what happened because they donated, right? But also get them excited to give more and give again, or go from an annual donor to a monthly donor, or go from a small level donor to a major donor, right? We're trying to increase their passion about our organization, right? So it's not about building a better year-end campaign. It's about stewarding better and building that relationship so that when you ask at year-end, they're primed to give, right? And so, the way I talk about this with my clients, because I realize when I talk about it in the theoretical, that sounds really, really overwhelming. I understand that, right? But I think I break stewardship down into two pieces, right? Step one is we have a thank you process. And then step three is we have a gratitude system, right? So the thank you process is the thing that happens the minute the gift is made. You do an initial thank you or series of thank yous to let the donor know you received their gift and to thank them, right? This is just, this is the good manners part of receiving a gift, right? We're gonna say thank you. We're gonna say they made a difference. We're gonna say, hey, got your gift, thanks so much, right? That's the thank you piece. And sometimes, and I see a lot of organizations deciding that that's enough. Saying thank you once is enough. And yes, I think you only have to say thank you in the immediate aftermath of them making a gift. But then that's where this gratitude system comes in, was we want to have a system to keep donors up to date and engaged in your work. I like to talk about this sometimes like when you ask a donor to donate and they say yes, it's like asking somebody to marry you. You're saying, hey, you've been interested in what we're doing, but like, I would like you to make a deep commitment to our organization. And they say, yes, absolutely. I would love to make a deep commitment to your organization. And you say, thank you. I really appreciate this. Now I'm going to go talk to somebody else. Right? That doesn't feel good. And just like in any good relationship, you don't build relationships by not talking to the person, right? So it's like we proposed, they said yes, and we were like, great, thank you for saying yes to marrying me. I'm going to go talk to some other people now, right? That's not how you build a good marriage. It's not how you build a good friendship. Just in general, not good ways of building relationship. But people who say yes to donating to you are saying that they care about the difference you're making and they want to invest in it. So we have to keep them up to date and engaged. We have to show them what their gift did, what the work is that they are investing in, so that they want to do it again, so that they do it in bigger numbers, so they do it more frequently. Does this make sense to everybody? You can give me a yes or a thumbs up in the webinar chats. Yeah. All right. Awesome. Again, theory, wonderful. How do we actually implement this? All right, here's how we're going to implement it. You can scan that QR code, or you can type this in. I put it there, but it's probably faster to type the QR code. So you can go over here and you're going to get my stewardship workbook that I have created that I use with all of my clients. And we are actually going to brainstorm this together. All right. So hang on just a second. I just realized I did not pull the workbook up. It's in a different place. All right. All right. Is everybody getting in on this worksheet? Oops. All right. Can everybody see my worksheet? You pulled it up? I can see some of you in there. All right. Great. Great, great, great. Awesome. All right. So what we're looking at is our thank you process. This is what happens immediately after the gift or within a month of making the gift. And then our gratitude process, this is something that we do throughout the year. And this page is for you to fill out. So this process and system here is for you to fill out. So what I want you to do is look in your database, and I do stratify this by giving level, just primarily because you just have fewer donors at the top, right? And so it becomes easier the fewer donors you have to do more deep engagement, right? Just a second. Somebody asked if I could put the link in the chat, but I can't copy it from my slides. Hold on just a second.
I just put the link in.
Oh, great. Thank you. All right. So add that 10%, your top 10%. Those would be, so if you have 100 donors, that's your top 10 donors. What is that giving level? And then top 25%. So if you have 100 donors, your top 25 donors. What is that range from that 25% and up? Top 50% and your lower 50%. These are rules of thumb. If you see this and it's a weird number, you can round it up or down. It's not a hard and fast rule. But Then we want to think about a thank you process. For this lower 50%, they just get this one touch, right? The thank you. For this one, we're going to do 2 touch points, right? And I'll talk you through some of the things I recommend. And here we're going to do all 3 touch points for our top tier donors here. Yeah? All right. Theoretically, you're with me still. So that's what we're going to do for the thank you process. As it gets higher, we're going to try to do a little more thanking up front. And there are really easy ways to implement this. And then our gratitude process. Again, we've got some touches that we're going to do for all donors, but then we can offer different things for higher tiers of donations because, again, we have fewer donors at those higher tiers. So first, what I would encourage you to do is look at this, pull your donor list. Do it for the last 12 to 18 months, 2024 and 2025 so far. What does that look like? What is that spread? See how many donors are in your top 10%. If you've got 10 donors in your database, then that's one donor, right? If you've got 100, it's 10 donors. So what does that look like for you based on your donor count, and what are the levels? Where are those breaking points? So as an example, right, this is a real example from one of my clients. Their bottom 50% was donors under $250, right? And yes, before you ask, you should be sending an autoresponder. They should be getting an autoresponder when they donate, especially when they donate online. I do not count that as part of your thank you process because it usually goes into the promotions tab in Gmail, right? So good luck on them actually even seeing it. And 2, everybody knows how easy it is to automate those things today. So they do not make an impact, right? It is the same as not saying thank you. So I do encourage you to have some kind of touch point, even for your $2 donor, right? But then for this client, that next tier was $250 to just under $1,000. And then we had 1,000 to 5,000, and then 5,000 and above was kind of where that break was when we looked at their donor list. So the first thing I recommend, and I recommend this to everybody, is send a personal email. And this is a very, very easy thing to do. And I know you can do it with causevox because I set it up for clients before with causevox, is when a donor makes a donation, they should get the autoresponder. But in your CRM, you should set yourself up as a BCC on the autoresponder. Does everybody know what that means? BCC, blind copy. It means when a donor donates, you get a copy of the autoresponder that goes out. All right. So you set yourself up as the BCC on that autoresponder. And then when you see it come through in your email, you're just going to reply to it. And I know, I'm pretty sure with causevox, Jenna can jump in and correct me if I'm wrong. But when you do that, when you hit reply, it puts in your donor's email address. And then you can write a little thank you note to your donor. And I like to do something along the lines of, dear so-and-so, I just saw your gift come through. We're so grateful. I just wanted to send you a quick personal note to say thanks. And do you mind letting me know what inspired your gift today? Yeah. Even if you know it's your year-end campaign, ask them what inspired their gift today, because you don't mean your year-end campaign. What about your mission inspired them to give? I have clients tell me this is a game changer. One, it jumpstarts conversations with donors, and they learn so much about their donors. And then they're like, oh, and the donors are telling me things that we don't actually highlight that much. And I realize that we should be messaging really, really differently. Yeah, so this is a great way to start building relationship with your donors. And it's so easy. It's so easy. Even at an organization where we had 3,000 donors, yeah, I was personally able to reply to every gift we got that year. Yeah. So if I could do it, you can too. I promise. If I can do it with 3,000 people, you can do it too. All right. So, and I try to do that within 24 hours, right? So, as soon as I see the autoresponder come through, I reply. You can make this even easier in Gmail. You can set up a template that has that and just send it, right? It's very easy. All right. So, once you get to those higher tiers, I recommend trying to call your donor within a week, right? Calling your donors, saying thank you. This has a huge impact. My first year in fundraising, I had no idea what I was doing. But I just knew fundraising is about relationships. So I started calling every single donor to say thank you after their gift. That is the only thing I changed, and I doubled our revenue from one year to the next. Yeah. I know that sounds nuts, but also it's true. Okay. So phone calls, very, very helpful. Yeah, call and say thank you. Again, doesn't have to be super time consuming. And then these higher levels, that's where I like to do the handwritten thank you note. Getting your executive director, board chair involved in writing those thank you notes can be really awesome. Or maybe you have something else that makes more sense for your organization. But these are things that I've done time and time again with clients that I see working really, really well. All right. So, and I'm all about efficiency and building things that work really quickly and easily. So here's what I do. I have that BCC set up. As soon as I see a gift come through, I reply and say thank you. If your CRM can schedule reports and have them send that report to you, one of the things I like to do for these phone calls is I schedule my CRM to send me a report that has the donor name, gift amount, and their phone number for that week. So anybody who gave from the Friday before to the Friday afternoon the next week, I have it pull that list and send me the report. And then I just open up the report, call all the donors. That's what I do Friday, 4 o'clock before I go home for the weekend. Yeah. So it's a great process. And again, carve out an hour at the end of your week, call all the donors who have given in the past week. If you don't have a heavy lift, if you don't have that heavy flow of donations week to week, this should be very easy. It kind of peaks around year end, right? But doing those phone calls once a week to anybody who's given to you in the prior week just really amplifies your stewardship and your donor retention. Handwritten notes, I know in the timeline here, this is because this is from a client that wanted to get them out in a week, but handwritten notes, I like to say once a month, sit down with your ED, or once a month, sit down with your board chair and have them write all the thank you notes for any eligible donors at that level, right? So it's systematized. We're not doing this every time a donor gives. We're doing it as part of a system. All right. I have clients all the time implement it after a month. They're like, oh my gosh, my donors are already 10 times more in love with me. And I know a million times more about my donors than I ever did before. Transformative. Yeah. All right. So that is our thank you process. Oops, sorry. And then our gratitude process. These are things that we are doing throughout the year. I can show you this example. This is not the best option for everyone, but this is drawn from a client that did advocacy work. In January, we sent an impact report and tax letter to all of our donors. In February, at our annual board meeting, I would have all of my board members do a thank you call round to all of our donors, right? And again, call them after a gift, but I had my board members call them at a random point just to say, hi, I'm a board member from such and such a place. Especially we did February because it was kind of an off time. We weren't asking for a lot, so most people hadn't donated recently. So it was a great way to get donors to remember that they had donated to us at a random point in the year. We had quarterly email updates, quarterly conference calls where we updated them on our advocacy strategy and things like that. We had an annual donor impact meeting, which we kind of treated like a shareholder meeting for a stock investment company, which is a fun way to think about reporting back to donors. And then our top tier donors got an annual one-on-one meeting with the executive director, which doubled as our solicitation meeting to make sure that they gave again at that level or ask them to increase. So it was a 1-2 punch, right? We did gratitude and solicited them at the same time. That's a particular example from an organization I worked for. Now, will that gratitude process work for your organization? Probably not. Probably not. And why is that? Because we have to center our stewardship in our mission, right? Mission-centered stewardship is about creating ways of thinking and engaging your donors that doesn't pull you off course from your mission, but rather incorporates your donors into your mission, right? And so working for an advocacy organization, those conference calls, we were strategizing with our donors on how do we move our advocacy campaign forward, right? And that was a way of engaging them in our mission. If you do some sort of direct service thing, conference calls are going to be less exciting to your donors. They're going to want something else, right? So what's great about mission-centered fundraising is that it works really well. And for nonprofits focused on community building or community-centric fundraising, that's what we want to be doing, right? We are building trust. We're not giving out tote bags, right? Trust, not tote bags. That is, I have a group coaching program, and whenever somebody asks about, well, should we send our donors a gift for giving, and everybody goes, trust, not tote bags, right? It is a mantra in my in my group coaching program, right? What donors want from you is engagement. They want to know that their giving made a difference to you, to the people you serve, to a cause that they cared about. They want engagement. They need to understand that they are needed. They need to feel like giving to your organization was a good idea, right? That they did something by giving to you. And they want to know that giving again will make even more good stuff happen, right? And we can't convince them of that when we're just asking for money. We have to be showing them, right? And that's, again, show me your impact. Don't tell me about your impact. Show me your impact, right? So some examples, some thank you process things. Like I said, the autoresponder, thank you calls, right? And thank you notes. These are all wonderful things to do. But some of the things some of my clients have done, I work with a bilingual preschool. They do handwritten thank you notes, but it is in the form of a Post-it note that they put on a piece of art made by a child in their art program, right? I think that's really, really fun and special, right? I had a client that worked in hip hop based arts education. They did hip hop based arts education with kids with disabilities. They wrote a rap of the month because their development director was a former participant in their program. And he every month would write a rap and share it with their donors about what their impact had been that month. And I thought that was really, really cool. I loved getting his rap of the month. I also getting a What I Learned letter from a program intern. And I also ran a Take an Intern to Lunch program when I was an individual giving major gifts officer for an organization that had a really robust internship program that I was fundraising around. The people who funded the internship program, I would go with the donor and the intern to a lunch. It was not just to thank the donor, but many of our donors, I've worked in a DC advocacy, really well-known DC advocacy organization, and many of our donors were policy people in DC, and many of our interns wanted to work with policy people in DC. And so it was not only great for the donor, but it made a connection for my intern that our interns went on to extraordinary careers in Congress and things like that because of what we were doing with that donor program, right? So, so double trouble. We were cultivating our donors really, really well and getting our interns really good job placements after they interned with us, which is awesome. Other things for that gratitude system, things you could do as examples. I like to do impact meetings, not just reports, but having donors come in and talking to them about impact in person, right? I have had a client that worked with domestic violence, and they a faith-based organization, and they had a Mother's Day virtual prayer circle that was really, really powerful, that their participants loved and that their donors loved, right? I'm working with an art house cinema. One of our donor benefits was getting to pick a film for our fan favorites series, which again, when I talk about mission-centered fundraising, right, we are saying thank you, thanks for donating. You get to tell us a film you want to see. But when we would screen that film, inevitably that donor would come and bring all their friends, and then their friends would become donors to our organization, right? And so we were doing things that fundraise and thanked our donors all at the same time. So you can see there are ways of incorporating this into your mission based on your mission. So how can you bring those donors in so that they really truly understand the impact that your organization makes, right? And the thing is, going back to this worksheet, right, we can ideate these ideas. But then the nice thing is we can timeline them, right? So that's the last part of this worksheet is we're going to look at what are we saying we're going to deliver as our gratitude process? What is our stewardship program really going to look like? And then we can program it out on a timeline, right? So here's my board thank you calls, impact report and tax letter, quarterly email update. So you can see how we were able to calendarize that with the clients so that we knew what was coming up and we planned it around other things. You can see there's this program segment here, right? So we would do the board thank you calls, the impact letter, the quarterly email update, and guess what? There was a spring fundraising campaign that hit here, right? So we did all this cultivation, looks like a down month on stewardship, but that's when we were asking for money, right? June, July, August, September, we're doing all of this. Guess what? October, gala, right? And then we hit everybody from November to December. We give them one more update before we hit them with year-end fundraising. Yeah. So our donors, this client, the donors are hearing from them once a month, right? And only 3 of those months was it a solicitation, right? And so that was an organization I got up to, they were at 12% donor retention when I started working with them. After 6 months, we got their donor retention up to 60%. Yeah, it doesn't take long. It just takes intention, right? So I know that sounds unbelievable, but I have the data. So that is how I train my clients to do stewardship and still have time. So what you want to do, take this spreadsheet that I shared with you, pick your touch points, and then calendarize it. Decide when in the year you're going to do it. And then I really encourage everybody to have a project management system, right? Or as Jenna was sharing with causevox, it sounds like you can track your tasks in there. So calendarize it, right? And then one of my other tips that I always share with my clients is time boxing. So one of the strategies I use to build sustainable fundraising programs is we kind of map out how many hours a week do you need for different types of work. So carving out a couple hours for stewardship every week allows you to keep moving the needle on this, right? So if you calendarize and then create some time that you treat like a meeting on your calendar for stewardship only. And if you've been following me for any amount of time, you know that we talk about Fridays are for fundraising when we talk to overloaded fundraisers, overloaded executive directors. If you can just make Fridays about fundraising, if you're an executive director, or if you are a full-time development director and you can make Fridays about stewardship, that will really, really intensely move the needle for your organization. Yeah. So that is how we make it happen. You pick the touch points that you ideate on my spreadsheet, calendarize it throughout the year, make sure you give it lead time, right? You can't send an annual report the day that you realize you need to send an annual report. It takes time, right? And then time boxing, creating time in your schedule for stewardship and pushing back on new fundraising tactics or new fundraising strategies to make space for stewardship will actually probably amplify your ability to fundraise from the programs that you're already running now, the campaigns you're already running now. Yeah. All right, I'll get to Q&A in just a second. I just want to share a couple things with you. If you're interested in working with me, we have 3 levels of support that we offer. You can go to culinary school with us. This is what we call our Sustain and Thrive program, is a group coaching program where you learn the basics. I can come in and be your sous chef with our Uplift and Engage program, where I can help write your donor communications and make sure all of your stewardship and solicitation materials get out. Or I can become your personal chef through our Nurture and Grow program, which brings me in almost like a development director to create the foundation and infrastructure to run a sustainable fundraising program. And I realize I haven't updated this. It is now a 6-month program. So we've made it even faster and even cheaper. So it used to be a 12-month program at $5,000 a month. It's now a 6-month program at $1,500 a month. So we can do it faster and cheaper for you now, to build out all of your infrastructure for your fundraising program if you don't have one. If you are interested in joining our Sustain and Thrive program, it is the greatest group coaching program. I love it. I love our participants. They're incredibly supportive, wonderful human beings. And if you're interested in joining us, our Sustain and Thrive program, the group collaborative cohort-based learning experience for nonprofit leaders. You have a self-paced learning course to learn the basics of fundraising. And every single month you will learn a strategy, like I just shared with you today, on how to streamline some part of your fundraising operation. We have weekly group coaching sessions, and this slide is also out of date. We have a private school group. We are not on Facebook anymore. We have a private community where you can ask questions, ask me anything in between sessions, and we hold you accountable to hitting your goals. So that program, it's pay-as-you-grow pricing. It starts at $25 per month. If you're interested in working with us, you can go to fromscratchfundraising.com/apply or scan that QR code. And also, this is the first place I'm getting to share this other than my email list, but we are launching a podcast, Fridays for Fundraising. It is a weekly bite-sized fundraising tip delivered in a less than 10-minute podcast, where we will actually walk you through week by week what you need to be doing to amplify your fundraising that week. So we are kicking off the podcast September 5th. If you scan the QR code there, you can join the waitlist and get the first episode a week early. And you're going to want to do that because I'm going to teach you how to run an excellent gratitude campaign that will amplify your year-end results. So please click that QR code and join and follow along this new podcast journey that we are on. But basically every week in September, I'm going to teach you how to build out a gratitude campaign. In October, we're going to plan your year-end campaign. And then every week in November and December, I'm going to give you a tip to amplify your year-end results. And all in less than 10 minutes. I'm trying to get them under 5 minutes, but I talk too much. But anyway, they are really, really short podcasts. So if you carve out an hour a week, the idea there is you listen to the podcast for 5 to 10 minutes and finish out your hour doing the thing that I tell you to do. And that alone should help you get results in your fundraising program. So I'm really excited to have this launch. I can't wait for it to reach your ears. So I have some questions. Let's see. Okay. David asks, is there stewardship for volunteers? I'm not sure what you mean by that. So David, if you're still watching, can you give me a little more information about why you're asking that question? I think stewardship, yes, we should say thank you to volunteers. They're also engaged in doing your work, so that stewards them. Yeah. I also see that volunteers are usually your best donors too, sometimes. So they can do both. And volunteering asking donors to volunteer can also help steward them. Yeah, retaining volunteers so they come back. I have done less work around that because I do individual giving. But yeah, I think, yes, we should say thank you to our volunteers, but they're seeing the impact by volunteering. So I think it's less important that you do that mission-centered stewardship with them and more just make sure you're doing thank you touch points with them. Yeah, and Rosa asks, the group coaching program is $25 per month. Yes, you heard that correctly. It scales by your organization's budget. So if your budget is under $100,000, it's $25 per month. If you go to our website, you can see all the other tiers, or if you go to apply, there's a drop down that'll tell you what your cost is based on your organization's annual budget. But it doesn't go above $250 for organizations raising over $1 million. So so it'll scale, but most of our bottom three tiers are $25 a month, $75 a month, and $150. All right. David says they're volunteering once a year at each election. Oh, okay. So if it's a long time between volunteer stints, yes, I would definitely say you want to do some things throughout the year that would steward them. So you could even loop them into your individual giving stewardship program if you wanted to. That's a good distinction. All right. Jordan asks, as an organization grows and your giving level tiers change, do you change the amount? Yes. What I tend to do is adjust it. Yeah. And when I adjust it, if there is a donor that I see as kind of a heavy user or heavy attendee at things that they are about to lose, I will kind of reach out to them. And it's a really good upgrade opportunity, right? Is like, we're redesigning our stewardship program. I know you really enjoy or value this thing. We're finding that as we grow, we can only sustain donors at this level in that program. So would you consider upgrading? I have done that before, and it has led to upgrades, which is really neat. Also, I think you can kind of you can play that by instinct, right? If there is a donor who really likes a program that you're running, but does not have the fun, you are reasonably sure they don't have the ability to give you more. Sometimes I just make a call and still let them do the thing because it's, not a lot of skin off my nose if it's just one or two more donors. So yes, the giving level tiers will change because you are hopefully, my experience is, yes, you do grow, you do get donors giving bigger levels, but what I've also found is normally those higher tiers are growing because lower dollar donors are upgrading. So they're naturally moving to the tiers where those touch points can remain the same, even if you change who's eligible because they're upgrading, right? So that's where I say it's kind of an instinctual thing. You can invite them to upgrade so that they keep getting it, or you can say like, I think they've upgraded enough. We're just going to need to let them keep having the thing for relationship building purposes, right? All right, let's see. How do you get donors to respond to invitations to meet? Okay, Mary. Stewardship. What I find is when we're not stewarding well, donors don't get excited because any communication from you, they are like, oh, okay, you're probably going to ask me for more money. So that is something I notice. The more your stewardship program activates your donors, the easier it is to get them to respond when you ask them for meetings, right? Also, just being really upfront about why you want to meet with them really, really helps, because if you're being vague, they think you're asking me for money. And if you're asked, and then it feels a little duplicitous to them, right? If you want to meet with them to ask them to give you more money, say it. Just say it. Don't tiptoe around it. If they want to have that conversation, they'll say yes. If they don't or are not ready to have that conversation, they will say no. And we shouldn't be tricking them into having those conversations, because we could trick them into meeting with us, but then they're going to say no once we meet with them, right? So stewardship will get more people more excited to say yes to those things. Yeah. All right. Yeah, Jenna, I just noticed the time. Do I have time to answer any more questions, or?
Yeah, thanks for all these insights here today. You are the last session of the summit, so it really just depends on how long you want to stay on and how
All
long
right.
attendees want to stay on. Totally up to you.
All right. Well, I can make sure to answer these questions at least. Okay, cool. So we did Mary. We answered that one. All right, Ben, you said, what information do you collect from first-time donors? I like to make sure I have at least email and phone number. If you do a lot of mailing, you can go ahead and get the address. Usually, it depends on your mission, what you're going to do with the information, right? I definitely believe in the whole idea that your your donation form should ask for as little information as possible to get higher conversion. I think that is really critical. But at the same time, the more information you have, the more ways you have to connect with your donor or learn about your donor, all of that, right? So, usually with first time donors, in an ideal world, I want to get email, phone number, and address. If I had to lose one of them, I would lose their address. If I'm being honest, in this day and age, I'm going to lose their address because I don't see a lot of my clients doing a lot of mailing. And then the main reason to have their address then is for wealth screening purposes. But first time donor, it's not that critical, right? That we have wealth screening abilities, because if they've only given once, they're not committed enough to ask them for a major gift. So that would be what I would say. All right, going as fast as I can. Mary, how do you structure an impact meeting? It'll depend on your mission. I have done them where our different program staff give updates. Like each program director gives an update on their program. When I worked for an organization that had 6 different programs, when I worked at an art house cinema, we would just get up and we would share some critical stats, and then we'd show a movie. So there are many, many ways to host and structure an impact meeting, but I like to do them in person if that's possible, given your organization and where your donor base is located. Um, if if they are international, I mean, Zoom is really awesome now because we can have those hybrid impact meetings. Those work really well too. But how you're going to structure it, what information you're going to share, how much is going to be hanging out and visiting versus, telling them what's happened with your mission. I think that varies based on your organization, right? When I was working for a high powered DC advocacy organization, it was very formal. It was come in, sit down, we will share information and then send everybody on their way, because that is how we work in DC. But like I said, the art house cinema, it was much more unstructured. It was come in, have some popcorn. Anybody want candy? We're going to throw candy through the audience. And then we're going to, share some major stats about our accomplishments in the last year, membership growth, all of that kind of stuff, health, financial health of the organization. Now, please enjoy this fun movie, right? It really depends on your organization. Yeah. All right, next question, Tina. Any advice for stewardship fundraising when it feels overwhelming? That was the whole presentation. I think it's really, really about finding structure and efficiencies, right? And so, Tina, I can't answer this very quickly because this is what I do in my group coaching program, and there are 12 units that teach you how to do this. So, that's it's really hard, but that's the main thing, is like taking stewardship, something that can feel really overwhelming because we're trying to one-off things, or we are trying to oh, what should we do now? What should we do now? It feels overwhelming because we're being reactive instead of proactive. So for me, when things feel really overwhelming in your fundraising operation, it's about figuring out how to get proactive so you can get ahead of things versus being reactive and imagine in this moment, like, oh my gosh, we haven't sent a newsletter update. Oh my gosh, we got to do that. We got to do that. That's when it feels overwhelming. But when you have a system, when you have a program, when you have clear deliverables throughout the year, It makes it a lot easier. And then, yeah, there are a lot of efficiencies we can find in fundraising. And if you're interested in joining Sustain and Thrive, that is 100% what we do in that program. So, yeah. Um, I hope that's helpful. All right, Tina's last question. What's my favorite thing about consulting? Okay, I will say I know a lot of people are thinking about going into consulting. The fundraising, especially consulting arena, is getting really, really oversaturated. I will say it is not easy to run a nonprofit consulting business right now. So if you think it's going to be easier than running a fundraising department, it is not. It's probably twice as much work. But the reason I do it is because I love getting to work with different organizations. I mean, from scratch fundraising, the heart of what we do is building efficient fundraising systems for our clients. And so that is what I do. That is my niche. But what that means is I'm not working with one type of organization. So I am working with a tool bank. I am working with an aviation academy. I am working with a climate change advocacy organization. I am working with a bilingual preschool. I am working with a justice reform organization. I am working with an organization that helps people put people through addiction recovery. I get to see all these different organizations and what they're doing. And I think what I would say my favorite thing about consulting is right now when the world feels so overwhelming and like everything is burning down, I have 30, 40 clients at a time that are the best of what the world has to offer. And I get to see the impact they're making, and I get to help them grow the impact they're making. And that I'm going to cry. That means a lot to me. I love that. And so again, if any of you are interested in becoming one of my clients, I'd love to help you continue to change the world. But yeah, but you can start with my podcast if you want. There
Aw,
you go.
Kelly,
There we go.
your passion is definitely coming through.
Thank you.
And yeah, and congratulations on your podcast. Yeah, I hope the
Yes,
launch goes well for you.
I'm so excited. I'm so excited. It's been a dream, a glimmer in my eye for 2 years now, and now we're finally doing it. So
Wow.
yeah,
Happy for you.
thank you.
Well, I really appreciate your time today with us, Kelly, as always. Fantastic content. And I think our audience has gained some valuable tips for planning and staying.
Awesome.
So
Very
that's
good.
what's important.
Awesome. Very good. Well, thank you for having me, and thanks everybody. I hope you have a great final few minutes with Jenna and Rob. I'm a big fan of both of them, so always great to be here.
Thanks, Kelly. You're the
All
best.
right.
We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.
Yep.